Let's talk about the Endangered Species Act. One of the things that we talked about on your radio program several years ago was the sand dune lizard.
Yes.
And here the Department of Interior, I guess, could have signed a document that declared that as an endangered species, despite the fact that you can't walk through West Texas without tripping over these things. But if they'd done that, what would that have done to our oil development?
Because the Permian Basin of West Texas is where this lizard is located, and because the Permian Basin is the largest shale play by far, the Permian alone outproduces every country on earth in oil production except Russia and Saudi Arabia. So that is a powerhouse. This is the biggest threat to Russia and Saudi Arabia and any petro state, because they're going to flood that market with oil and gas, so they want them shut down. So you conveniently find a species of anything out there and claim that it is endangered. And I'm told by the people in West Texas and the authorities here in the state of Texas that the environmentalists went out to do a count of how many of these lizards were there. This is a very unscientific way of figuring out, is this animal endangered? It's apparently an animal that comes out mostly at night and wants to be where there's water. They go out there in a drought where there is no water in the daytime and look around and say, oh, how many lizards did I see? Apparently the methodology was terrible, but it doesn't matter. The way that the government works here is when you come to the feds and say, here's what we found, we're Sierra Club or whoever, the government doesn't go get other independent analyses or do its own. It can't afford that. So it just says, okay, great. And then, they move forward with the perhaps listing process, which can shut down oil production or real estate development or business production in that area over a lizard that isn't even endangered.
And so you said the Sierra Club or some of these environmental clubs. Isn't it true that Putin and others have put money into these clubs?
Well, what we know for sure, and you can see this in a report from the U.S. Senate Committee on Environment and Public Works from 2014, it's called Billionaires Club. I think it's 592 footnotes tracing the money in the green movement. The sixth largest funder of the U.S. green movement is a firm in Bermuda. Offshore money. It goes from Bermuda to the Sea Change Foundation of California, and then they kick it out to what looks like 200 environmental nonprofits in the United States. So where's that money coming from? It's a lot of money. And there's been investigations now. The firm is Klein Ltd. And that firm has been traced to board members of Rosneft, the Russian oil company. Wow. Yeah, or linked to the board members of Rosneft. If you Google that, you can find it online, both from your U.S. Congress doing the investigation, and then from there, others independently who were interested.
So you can hamper your global competition.
Yes.
With it's a large amount of money for the green movement, but it's a small amount of money relative to the oil revenues. With a relatively small amount of money, you can place it in to the green movement, and you can tell them, hey, we want to protect this lovable little lizard that would wipe out the third largest producer of oil in the world.
That's what it's all about. That's what it's all about.
So tell us about sue and settle with the EPA.
Very similar to what I was just describing with, environmental group shows up with an alleged problem. And here's the deal. They're going to say to the federal agency, you have a duty to whatever. It's going to be stop pollution, keep the water clean, keep the air clean, protect endangered species, whatever it is. This could be fish and wildlife, it could be others. And they're going to say, here's the problem, all documented and served up on a silver platter to you. You need to do something about it. We're going to sue you because you haven't. Okay, what you have to understand is the government will then capitulate and enter into some agreement, so sue and settle. That's why it's called sue and settle. And it's going to give the environmental group everything they asked for and everything they wanted. This is basically policy making outside of the normal process, right? You can't pass a bill to do what they want to do because the Congress won't go along. The agencies can't be persuaded to do it on their own in rulemaking, so you sue them and get the courts. It's much easier to find a forum shopping for a friendly court to make this happen.
You're taking regulation out of the congressional purview of Congress,
right,
and putting it in agencies that are filled with unelected bureaucrats,
yes,
that are cooperating with a green movement and also a friendly court. And so essentially the court has a trump card over so no matter what the Congress has passed, if the agency agrees in court, we're stuck with it.
And the agency...
How do you change that?